Hello friends, welcome to my channel. You are watching electronic stuff. Today in this video we are going to understand about VI characteristics of PN junction diode. So what are these VI characteristics? It is nothing but it is a relationship between current through a diode and voltage applied on a diode. And it is represented as a graph. And these VI characteristics are also called as volt ampere characteristics. And as you can see here, x-axis represents the voltage applied across the diode and y-axis represents the current through a diode. And here I represented as Vf and If. Here Vf represents the voltage applied across the diode in case of forward bias and If represents the current through a diode in case of forward bias. And similarly I represented as IR and VR, where VR represents the voltage applied across the diode in case of reverse bias and IR represents the current through a diode in case of reverse bias. As we already know that PN junction diode can be biased in two methods, forward bias and reverse bias. And now let's see the VI characteristics of PN junction diode in case of forward bias. So as you can see here, in case of forward bias condition, positive terminal of the battery is connected to the P side and negative terminal of the battery is connected to the N side. So here in this case, if we increase in the voltage, the current here in this diode will be low until it reaches a certain voltage. And we call this certain voltage as knee voltage. And once the applied external voltage reaches this knee voltage, then the current across the diode will increase linearly. And now let's see this phenomena using this graph. So as you can see here, when we gradually increase in the voltage, the current here in this diode will be low until it reaches the knee voltage. And once this external applied voltage reaches this knee voltage, then the current across the diode will increase linearly. And if it is a silicon diode, then the knee voltage for this silicon diode is 0.7 volts. And if it is a germanium diode, then the knee voltage for this germanium diode is 0.3 volts. So this is the VI characteristic graph of PN junction diode in case of forward bias. Now let's see the VI characteristic graph of PN junction diode in case of reverse bias. Now in case of reverse bias, negative terminal of the battery is connected to the P side and positive terminal of the battery is connected to the N side. And now when we gradually increase in the voltage, the electrons which are present in N region and holes which are present in P region will flow away from this depletion region, and hence it results in wider depletion region. Therefore we know that wider depletion region do not allow majority charge carriers to flow through them. It means there is no current flow due to this majority charge carriers. But in practical, the small current will flow in this diode due to this minority charge carriers. And this current which is generated in this diode is very small, in order of few microamps. And this small current which is generated due to this minority charge carriers is constant, or we can say that it is independent of applied voltage. It means, as you can see here, if we increase in the voltage, then the current remains constant. It does not vary. But it is constant up to a certain point. And once the applied external voltage reaches a certain point, then the current will increase rapidly. And the point of voltage where the current increases rapidly is called the breakdown voltage. And the current which is generated due to this minority charge carriers is called reverse saturation current. And the reverse breakdown voltage for this silicon diode is minus 75 volts and reverse breakdown voltage for germanium diode is minus 50 volts. So this is the VI graph of PN junction diode in case of reverse bias. So as you can see here, this is the VI characteristic graph of PN junction diode. And as we discussed recently, this is the graph of PN junction diode in forward region and this is the graph for PN junction diode in reverse region. And we already discussed that the voltage at which the current starts to increase quickly is called the knee voltage of the diode in forward region. So this is all about VI characteristic graph of PN junction diode. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.